My name's Angel Soliveris, and I would like to welcome you to the show, Making the Connection in Lancaster. Today we have two very special guests. We have Emma Gutierrez, who is the co-founder of the first Latino autism support group in Lancaster, and Suji Lopez, who is the co-founder of the Tommy Foundation. It's great to have you both here today.
Thank you for having us.
Great. For the benefit of our viewers, Emma, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and how long has it been since you started your support group?
Well, I'm a mother of two children, teenagers now. One is 14 years old and the other is 19 years old. And this is precisely Luis, my oldest son, who was diagnosed when he was 6 years old with a Noonan syndrome and also with autism. It was a shock for me, of course, and for my husband. We didn't know anything about Noonan syndrome. We didn't know anything about autism, so it was tough. But now he completed high school.
Okay,
he graduated this past school year, and he now is going to start a training with, it's just part of the transition from school to work. And he is just now going to start a program through the U13, and he's going to be getting trained at one of the Willow Valley's retirement homes.
Okay.
And he is going to learn just different rotations, probably 3 or 4 rotations a year, and also he's going to learn how to live independently, and hopefully he will get his driver license. That's what he wants to do.
All right,
next.
Great. Suji, you also are co-founder of the Tommy Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that and about yourself, and what inspired you to start this foundation.
Sure. My husband and I both, we met locally. We are actually both alumni of Franklin and Marshall College.
Okay.
So that's where we ended up meeting. We had a son while we were there, Tommy, who ended up being diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And so he's actually more profoundly affected. So he's more, the way he's affected is that it's more severe. And similar to Emma, when we found out that he was diagnosed, or that he had the diagnosis of autism, that was over 10 years ago now. And back then, again, not a lot of information was readily available. It's not like it is today, where back then it was 1 in over 300 children that was affected. Now it's 1 in 110, so more and more information is coming out. So it was definitely the amount of research and everything that we had to do. We figured that other parents would benefit from having that more readily available, and so that was definitely one of the key things that we were looking to do. And with Emma, we ended up tying in together because being Hispanic myself, I wanted to do more outreach into the Hispanic community locally.
Okay. And for those folks that don't know what autism is, tell us a little bit about that condition, what it is.
Sure. Autism is a bio-psychological condition. It's sort of a combination of both. It used to be thought of just in the realm of psychology, but now they're realizing that more and more of the children actually have other conditions that might be associated, whether it be epilepsy, whether it be issues with gastrointestinal problems, gastroencephalitis. Not all children display that, but there is enough biomedical things going on that it's sort of a merging of the two. But usually what ends up happening in order to get a diagnosis of autism is that children have to display a delay in communication, whether it's verbal or not. So some children are verbal, but usually there's a delay in some kind of communication structure or ability to communicate effectively. Social interaction, and then a lot of repetitive behaviors. So a lot of kids do what's called self-stimulatory behaviors. So they shake, or they might, twiddle, or things like that. Okay.
So in general, children with autism have functional disabilities to a certain degree. And in extreme cases, that could be even a lot more than what you just mentioned. It could be pretty severe. So tell us a little about a severe case of autism. What would that look like?
Well, my son's, like I said, is a little bit more on the severe end. thankfully, he doesn't have any of like the epilepsy or anything like that. We do work with some kids that do have that. But more severe end, I mean, you could have kids that never potty train. You can have children who are extremely aggressive. Mainly, I think, because of the inability to communicate effectively. So they're not able to verbally communicate what their
Right.
needs are, and so that the way that that translates is aggression increasing in order to communicate in some form. It could be that parents have to take care of their kids for the rest of their lives.
Right. And the cause is really unknown, right?
It is. There's a lot of speculation about different things that contribute to it. Right now, most people seem to think that there is a combination between genetics and environment.
Okay.
So that there is a combination of both going on there.
But that's really, I mean, the main point is like right now, I mean, it's very important that the people knows like there's no test that really, I mean, can tell you,
Right.
okay, this is what causes autism in your child.
Right.
It's unknown, we don't know, but we as a parents are the first, I mean, we know
Yeah,
our child.
'cause you're
and
with
we
your
know
children,
exactly,
right.
so we are the ones who exactly knows, okay, something is not
It's
right
not right.
here, so it's better go and check with the doctor.
And at what age do you start noticing this? Like 2 or 3 or?
It really depends. There are some parents that you'll talk to and they say, like, I noticed the minute my child was born, I could tell there was
Really?
something different. And then there's other parents, like in our case, our son actually had what's called regressive autism. So he spoke, he played with children, he pointed, he did all those things that you're not supposed to do. And then he lost all of it. So he actually regressed back in the developmental cycle. So for us, obviously, that was like a big thing, is when we noticed that all of a sudden, like, well, why isn't he saying anything else? That was like a big thing. But that was around too. But there's some parents that can tell much earlier than that.
Does it affect their motor skills, would you say?
It can. Again, autism has a lot of what's comorbid diagnosis with it, and that means like it's not just autism. So like in Emma's case, that she said that her son had 2 different diagnoses. A lot of children can have a different diagnosis of something else. And in that situation, for example, we work with a child in Lancaster who did have some motor issues. He didn't start walking until he was 2. And that was poor muscle tone. So that's something that could happen to some kids, but it doesn't happen to all of them.
And there is no cure for autism. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Yes.
There's,
Yes, you can say that.
Again, yeah.
There-
Again,
there's
some
treatment, but no
there's
cure.
treatment, right.
Yes.
Okay, and what are the treatments for autism, depending on the severity of the...
They're pretty wide ranging. So a lot of families do behavioral therapy. Applied behavioral analysis is a big one. There's things that are more play therapy, so floor time or sunrise. Those are more sort of like on the educational side of things. On more of the, obviously technological innovations now, there's a lot of children using things like iPads and iPods and things like that that are helping them. They're actually creating programs that help some children communicate that way. And then there's also more biomedical, so a lot of children are starting to see what are called DAN doctors, which stands for Defeat Autism Now. And so they do a lot of a battery of tests to figure out if there are gastrointestinal issues, if there are issues with inflammation in the brain, all those kinds of things, so that they can kind of help with a lot of the symptoms of autism.
And what's the Asperger's syndrome? Is that the more severe or?
No, that's less severe. There's
Okay.
actually right now, there's something called the DSM-4, which is how autism right now is diagnosed.
Okay.
And right now there are 5 different categories that you could fit under, and Asperger's is one of them. That's the one that would be
Is that
more
the most mild?
That's the most mild.
And how about the Canner's syndrome?
That one is actually sort of in between. But what's going to end up actually happening as of next year in 2012 is that all categories are being eliminated.
Oh, they are?
So they're all being submerged into one. It's all going to be known as autism, and it's just whether or not you're mild, you're moderate, severe, or profound are going to be the 4 categories.
Tell me about the Rett syndrome. They say that that really affects girls more than boys, or
It does.
What's
It's
the
more of a
difference?
girl. It's more of a girl disorder. It's genetic based. So that one is one of the. In fact, that's one of the ones that they're thinking of getting rid of altogether from the autism spectrum. As of right now, they're still obviously discussing that. And when I say they, I mean psychologists are still trying to figure out how they're going to diagnose that. But that's one of the ones that they can actually give a test for, and they could say, okay, it's sort of like Down syndrome. They can
Okay.
pinpoint it to a specific gene, and they could say, oh, okay, so this child has Rett syndrome.
okay. So they're going to take that out of the autism
They're
category?
thinking of taking it out completely, yes.
Okay. All right, Emma, tell us about your the local resources and support group that you started here in Lancaster. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, I mean, the support group that we started, I mean, I didn't start it by myself. I mean, I started with another mom. Unfortunately, he wasn't just able to join us today, but I have to say this, that she encouraged me. She encouraged me just to work together with her and just offer this service to parents. Parents who, one thing is the barrier, that not knowing medically all the terminology and what is the autism exactly. I mean, it's what to expect with this and what to do with it on my child. And the
Right.
second thing is the language barrier. So this is why we decided just to open the support group for parents in the Spanish, for parents with children with disabilities, pretty much autism. And this our first meeting was held in April last year.
Last year?
And we, as a matter of fact, we celebrate last month our first year
Oh,
anniversary
okay,
with a
great.
picnic, and Tommy Foundation
Cool.
was very nice to sponsor our picnic. So
Okay.
it was very nice. I mean, I think that most of the time the families that parents that are members of our group are very pleased because they have a very nice environment where they can just get together and where they can just share their experiences with other parents.
All right, and how many would you say are in your group right now?
Around 9 to 11, no, I think 10 to 12 families.
10 to 12?
10 to 12.
Okay. And how long ago was it you started your group?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
A long time?
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the tests, diagnoses that are done before the age of 4 for children that they suspect to have autism? What kind of tests is it?
Basically, what ends up happening is that once a parent realizes that their child might be having some delays, or in our case, regression, the first thing you usually do is that you would talk about that with your pediatrician.
Okay.
And at that point, your pediatrician can sort of, one of the things that they want to start doing is that they want to start giving pediatricians more of a questionnaire so that they can kind of see, in sort of a checklist, that they could see some of the signs more clearly. And from there, what ends up happening is that you get referred usually to early intervention. And that's a birth to 3 program where the state will come in and they sort of help you with physical therapy, occupational therapy, all those kinds of things. So they would run a battery of more educational, psychological tests to see what those delays exactly are and what services your child would be receiving.
Okay.
And that's actually the big thing that I know that Emma and I are both looking to help minorities in general in the area, because African American and Hispanic populations are getting their children evaluated a lot later. So a lot of children aren't being diagnosed until the age of 4, really missing a lot of that early intervention.
Right.
Which is right now, if there is anything that people are pinpointing as something that could really help that child move along so that they can move through some of their bigger challenges, early intervention is something that everybody keeps pointing to.
Right.
And so that's something we definitely want to keep stressing to families is, don't just kind of pretend that it's not happening.
Yeah, don't be in denial.
Don't be in denial. If you see that there's these challenges, ask right away and try to get those services as soon as possible.
Yeah, so I can imagine the work that Emma's doing with her support group and educating the parents to look for certain things and whatnot is really important.
Just only in the first year of our group, I mean, we just we brought different volunteers from the community, just to talk and they make presentation to all the parents there. We had been talking about early intervention, IU13. People from IU13 has been come to our meetings and just make presentation about how important, how they can get these services. We also have been have brought volunteers from the Social Security Administration, and just to explain to parents how they can just apply for services, for social services for children with disability. Also, Suji here also just was there and was able just to make a presentation about IEP programs, which is the individualized education programs, and how the parents has the right to ask the public schools for these programs, because every child, I mean, should have an art protector under the idea act just to get education. Doesn't matter regardless the disability.
Right, and and I see it at the high school because I work with the IU13 kids at the high school, and I've seen the end result of the many years that they've struggled with this. So I can see where it really affects them and affects their ability to be able to develop normally and to interact with other kids as well. So, to me, this is a real good cause, and, I praise her so many times for her support group because I don't think there's any other ones out there in Spanish, right?
Currently, I think I've heard that there's another one, another support group in Spanish, but I mean, it's just, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just only 2 support groups for this large community.
Right. What is the name of your group, Emma, again?
The name of our group is Grupo Bienaventuranza. And we met every other month, the second Monday, from 6 to 8, and we met at the Plaza San Juan Bautista, 441 South Lima Street. This is not the church, because many times people get confused with the church.
Right,
we don't meet
the
at the church. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Can you address some of our Hispanic viewers on this topic about your group, your support group? Tell them a little bit about your group and where you're located and the services that you provide.
Yes, certainly. I'm just going to address them in Spanish.
Yes.
If you don't mind. Yo los invito personalmente a que si ustedes son padres que apenas han descubierto que sus hijos han sido diagnosticados con autismo, a que vengan a reunirse con nosotros, que manden si quieren saber más información acerca de nuestro grupo, en donde nos reunimos, las horas en donde nos reunimos, cualquier información que ustedes quieran, o simplemente para comunicarse con nosotros y que nosotros los pongamos en contacto con otro padre. Si es que ustedes no viven en el condado de Lancaster, pueden mandar un email a la dirección de grupobienaventuranza@gmail.com, o bien comunicándose al teléfono I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I have my... O comunicándose al teléfono 717-397-8308. Nuestra próxima reunión va a ser el 12 de septiembre, de 6 a 8, les vuelvo a repetir, de la noche, en la Plaza San Juan Bautista, en el 441 South Lima Street, aquí en Lancaster.
Okay, very good, Emma. Suji, ¿tú también hablas español?
Sí.
La organización que tú tienes se llama Tommy Foundation. ¿Puede hablar un poquito de eso?
La organización que nosotros empezamos se llama The Tommy Foundation for Autism, y nosotros hemos estado trabajando con familias en el condado de Lancaster por más de 5 años ya. Ahora mismo el gran proyecto que tenemos es una película que va a salir el año que viene, que se llama The United States of Autism, y corre alrededor de los Estados Unidos. Está mirando a 21 familias con individuos en la familia que tienen todo espectro del autismo, o de moderado a bien severo, y muchos de los individuos, cómo ellos están lidiando con la vida, con todas las cosas que tienen que hacer. Aquí en el condado de Lancaster nos reunimos mucho con el grupo Buenaventuranza y también con otros grupos alrededor. Queremos comenzar más grupos también para las personas del habla hispana en otros condados, en otras áreas alrededor del estado de Pensilvania, y pueden comunicarse con nosotros al 717-283-7920 o a la conexión por correo electrónico SUGEY, SUGEY, @tommyland.org. So suji@tommyland.org.
Great. Wow, that's a lot of information. And I hope our folks took notes. But if they have any questions, they know that they can contact us, and we'll be glad to pass the links along. What are the other benefits for your group and its members who attend your meetings, Emma, for instance? When you go to the meetings, they come there, and what do you do there?
First of all, just to relate with all the parents having exactly the same difficulties, and the most important thing that they can just get they get there is the information.
Okay.
Information about the services in the area, information about autism, and then just happen to share other things that, like diets or therapies that have helped one of the children, and probably they can try and they can just see if that will help also their child.
Great. And do you have plan? You said you just celebrated your 1-year anniversary.
Yes.
What did you guys do for that?
We organized a picnic.
Okay.
We went to Daniel's dance.
Daniel's dance.
So it was a wonderful and very hot Saturday.
Yes, it was.
But we have a lot of fun, and
Okay.
the children enjoyed the time too.
Suji, is there anything else that you can fill us in on for families that are affected by children with autism?
Yes, I would say the main thing, and I think actually more so than even just information that they can get from joining a group like Emma's, I'd say that the main thing that parents need to remember to do aside from looking at all the things for their children, is to really focus on what their family needs, and that includes their own needs as well. And I think that that's one of the really great things about a group like Buenaventuranza, is that it allows families to come together to find out, just to have support for each other, because it's one of those conditions that can be really lonely if you're doing it on your own. The divorce rate right now for families who have children affected by autism is about 80%.
Really? Is that high?
It's
Wow.
really high. And a lot of it is, it's very expensive, it's very time consuming, it's very emotionally draining.
Yes.
And so having those support outlets is really important.
Okay.
So I really praise Emma for all the work that she's doing.
And
with
Alicia,
families.
don't
And
forget
Alicia,
Alicia.
yeah.
Alicia's done a lot of work also.
No, yes.
And your foundation puts out a lot of information, and you guys do a lot of education
Yes,
on
we
this.
do a lot of presentations.
A lot of training.
A lot of trainings. The film itself that we have that's coming out, that's like a big thing that we're doing for education as well.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you very much for all that information and for coming out and helping us to make the connection here in Lancaster. Unfortunately, like it always happens on our show, we run out of time. But hopefully you guys will be able to come back at a later date and we can discuss this further, because, this topic is not going to go away. And by the numbers that you talked about, it's just growing and getting worse instead of getting better. So I would like to thank you also for watching, because without you our shows wouldn't be possible. So please stay tuned for more interesting topics in the weeks ahead. Thank you and have a great day.